Step one in creating an acrylic painting is to first find your subject matter. I've taken a couple of photographs here. One is better than the other, but for instance, this one has a lighter sky and I don't like the clouds quite as well, but in this one, the land is too dark and the clouds are really pretty in this. And so I go ahead and do step two, which is figuring out the values. And one way to figure out values is either to do a black and white photo of your color photos and to see colors from light to dark. And that way you can see what are the strong points in this and what are the weak points. You also see the shapes that you can move things around if you want to. And so the way that a simple way to do a drawing is just to do what's called a thumbnail sketch. And the thumbnail can be very, very small, such as these are an example of a thumbnail that I did on another painting. These were done using what's called a view catcher. And this handy view catcher slides back and forth, and you can decide if you want like a 9x12 or 11x14, or the proportion for a 5x7 or 8x10. This is fine, especially when you're doing plein air painting, which is painting outside. But it does make very, very small thumbnail sketches. So what I like to do is I cut a little template for myself, and these were just on scraps of paper, as you can see. This template is a 2.5 by 3.5, which if you scale up to a 5x7, if I want my painting to be a 5x7, this is the right proportion for it. And of course I have one for an 8x10, and you can do them any size that you want. And so this is the drawing that I did. I had made myself a line around here, and then what I did was I decided from my photographs, both the black and white and the color photographs, what I want to keep in this painting and what's most important. And so I always do something when I'm doing landscapes. I find the horizon. And so the horizon is where, the end of the land right here. And, a mountain would be planted on top of the horizon right here. And there's trees, and they all come out. And so then I decided on this. I want these really dramatic clouds, and so I'm just giving myself a little sketch to remind myself of where those are. And a thumbnail sketch helps you really identify where you want your darks. Like, I want this to be dark right here, and in this photo there's nothing back here, but I want there to be a stronger focal point where I want the viewer to look into the painting. And so I might just decide to put a little barn there or a house. And then I also see in here that this area right in here is lighter, so I keep this light, and then I have some medium values. So think in terms of light, medium, and dark. So there's dark trees. Maybe this could be simplified as a mid-tone right in here, from here down, but this would be considered a light. And then of course the clouds are considered light, and I want to really make it light up in the focal point. So so I just sketch this out a little bit, and if you have trouble sketching out, there's all kinds of things you could do. You can either reduce this on your copier and trace the main lines. I think it's an excellent exercise, though, for an artist, even if you're not really great at sketching, to try to find where everything is in the painting and do that, because well, as you get older, as I'm an older artist, it creates connections in the brain, and you see things that you just would not ordinarily see if you were just going straight from a photograph. And also that people say it's good to paint outside because of that too. So anyway, after I've drawn this, then I choose the canvas. I want to just do a small painting of a 5x7. So I'm going to put this aside, and I'll have this to look at also. Maybe I'll just put that there. And I chose a 5x7 canvas. It doesn't come in this color. It comes as a white canvas like this. I have another video on toning canvases. I toned this a yellow oxide color. You can use any color, red, blue, gray, black, and that's for another video. But the reason I like to tone a canvas is because it takes all of the white off of the canvas, so that when you're drawing it on here and you're painting, you'll be able to see your darkest darks and your lightest lights. And this also provides some atmosphere for the painting, I believe. Some of this yellow will come through and give this a warmer feeling. So what I like to do, and I was using a graphite pencil for my drawing right here. I like to use a watercolor pencil for drawing on my painting. And I have the same brand of it. I like these Derwent pencils. One of them you can see is a watercolor pencil, and the other one is a 7B graphite pencil. But the reason I like a watercolor pencil to draw on the canvas is that if you mess up your drawing, you can just wipe it off. And so I'm going to go ahead and find my horizon on this, and maybe I don't want to put the horizon right in the middle. So I'm going to put this up here just a little bit, and it doesn't have to be a perfectly straight line, because usually there's not a perfect straight line in a landscape. So let's see, I'm finding where some of the big shapes are in this. Here, I'll also put this here so that you can see the photograph while I'm working on it. There we go. So there's a little mountain in the background. This was behind a general store that's up in North Carolina, and looking behind it, you can see this view. And so just very simple shapes. You don't have to know how to draw. Just think of them in terms of just an outline for right now. And I'm thinking that I want the main cloud shape to be in this area, and so you don't even have to put a lot of details in it. Just kind of decide about where it is. I like these big swooping clouds like this. I think they're so pretty and puffy looking. And as we paint it, I'll tell you about just the right products to use to keep your clouds looking fluffy. I'll do as much as I can on this today, but this might have to be in several parts as we work on it. So I think that I really like that fence, and so I'll put the fence in. It kind of runs off the page, but let me see if I can give myself a line. And it's bigger on this end right here. It gets smaller as it goes back, because that's going away from us. So I'll go through right here. And I can see from my drawing too that I have more space here and here. So I'm just going to scoot this tree up a little bit. This might be slightly of a different proportion than is in my photograph, actually, but you're the artist. You get to rearrange everything just the way that you think would be pleasing. And so, let's see, I might put one of these stakes in the fence right there. I don't want it to go off of the very end of the page like this, because if you do decide to frame your paintings, you don't want it something to be halfway underneath. And so I'm rearranging just a little bit of the way that this is looking. And then maybe there might be one right here as it goes further. So that means it has to get smaller right there. And there's several clumps of trees, but here's one right here. Or bushes or shrubs, I'm not sure what they are. And I don't know if I really need to put in these trees up at the top yet. I might go ahead and paint the sky in it first. So I'm thinking that this is all I really need to do, unless you can get as detailed as you want for your drawing. I go ahead and paint in this drawing with paint once I've figured out that I like this setup for it. I might just put that up just a little bit more to make it interesting. So I was saying that I love these watercolor pencils because you can remove this, and so I'm just see how that easy that line came off, and I'm just wetting that with a paper towel. You could use a paintbrush to remove it or whatever. So this is the first step. Well, after drawing, then if you wanted to tone your canvas, then drawing it onto the canvas. I guess that's the third step. The fourth step here on this preliminary, setup for our painting is to do what's called the underpainting. And so I'm going to go ahead and get my paint. I'll stop this right here, and then I'll get the paint and show you how to do the underpainting. Now I've poured my paint out onto my palette, and I'm using one of these Stay Wet palettes. Mine's pretty old. I use it all the time. It has a sponge in there that has gotten some paint on it, but anyway, it comes with paper, but I tend to want to use Reynolds freezer paper because it goes a long way, and if you paint a lot, you can use the paper in there. And it absorbs some of the moisture inside, so it keeps the paint wet longer if you're using acrylics. The type of paint I'm using is golden fluid acrylic, but you can use any kind of acrylics for this method that I'm teaching you. You just might need to water down the paint or add some medium to a thicker bodied paint. But this Payne's gray is not really gray. It looks more navy blue color. But and I like that for my landscapes, but there's different types of paint that people use for their underpaintings. Some people just like ultramarine blue or burnt sienna or raw umber. So whatever works for you is good, but I find that I like the Payne's gray because it creates my darks, and in acrylic painting you can paint on top of it and then get your lights for your landscapes. I've chosen my brushes, and as you can see, my brushes they're kind of old. I have a variety of round brushes and filbert brushes. Filberts are flat with a rounded edge. This was sort of an off-brand, but Simply Simmons makes them, and these are Robert Simmons white sable type of a brush that I like, and then this was in a pack of Langnickel brushes. So okay, let's get started. Remember though that you would use bigger brushes if you were doing a bigger painting. This is just a small painting. So to get started, I once again look at my photograph and look at my drawing and think about what's dark and what's light, what's my focal point. And so I'm just going to outline some of these simple shapes because we're going to go over it with other colors of paint. So and this is the only process that I recommend that you can water down the paint a little bit, but most people say don't water down acrylics because it hurts the consistency. It breaks down the polymer emulsion, but that you don't need to know that. So, all right, I'll just go ahead and get started. And I'm kind of ignoring the tree leaves that are at the top of this painting right now because I can go back over it after I get the sky in. Sometimes I put in more than you would actually need, but I like having a template for my painting to know where I'm going with it. And I think it really makes it easier for beginners to have a type of, to have guidelines to follow. And so this is what I do with all of my classes. I teach classes several times a week in my hometown. And anyway, I do this for both acrylic and my watercolors. But watercolors you have to take special care with because the watercolor soaks into the paper and doesn't come up quite as easily. So you can't as easily paint over it. You can lift up a little bit, but that's another class. So I'm doing acrylics right now, and I'm just going around all of the lines just as fast as I can and not taking too much care with them because I can go back in and add more detail. Some of the detail will show through. So I would say that's why it's important to have both, your good drawing and a good photograph with you so that you can see what you're doing from the very start. And this is the foundation of a painting. And most artists don't work like this flat. They stand up at an easel, which is good to do. I couldn't figure out how to film it like that right now because I'm just getting started on YouTube. So, so anyway, do what is comfortable for you. Most people will stand up an easel and hold the brush like this, but I tend to go like this when I'm up close to it. So, and I'm always saying, whatever works for you. I just wet down the paint a little bit and I'm putting this big tree in because when I get the green on top of it, it's going to look like it has shadowing in between, and it will give the tree dimension to have it dark on the inside. And so several of the trees and the foliage will be dark to begin with, and then you will go back and put your lighter colors on top, and it will give it dimension. And some of these trees, let's see, I'm going to make the mountain in the background very light, so I'll remember to put that back there. It has what is called the light value. It's more of medium. I mean, it's not the lightest light. Most paintings have several values, at least 7. But when you're starting out with your underpainting, you don't have to represent that completely. It's just easier if you can indicate it from the beginning, and then you'll know what to do. And as I do this, I'm even looking at the photograph closer, and it looks like there could be 2 trees there. It has 2 different shapes. You can make 1 tree or 2 trees, whatever is comfortable for you in your painting. I always paint over on the very edge of the painting because if you decide not to frame your painting, you can go around the edge and paint it, and you don't want to have a big gap on the side with another color besides the color that's on the that you've decided to paint on the edge. Okay, so I'm going to put just little grassy lines right here to give me an idea of what I want to do right here. And I have a little bit of more space in here for that yellow line, just because I want to leave some of this lighter. And I could always come up a little bit more if I need to. I'm kind of following the shapes, sort of the bunches of grass. It's not exact, but it will give me an idea of how to get started on the painting. So I want to go around the fence line here so that I don't go over it. And it's not perfect. I can shape it up a little bit. These posts right here are not even. They're not flat boards. They're dimensional, and so I can fix that on the painting when I'm painting it. If some of you have painted before, I'd love to know how you like to start a painting. Do you draw it? Do you just dive into the painting? How do you like to do a painting? I'm always interested in hearing about other people's processes. I'm wetting my brush just a little bit more to get some of the paint flowing freely here. And of course, there's going to be a lot of blades of grass on here, but I just want to darken behind where the blades are going. And then they'll show up really well once I get the smaller brush. Here, I'm going to fill this in a little bit, but we can go in a different direction with it. Because grass doesn't go horizontally, but it'll fill in the space quickly. And I always use the biggest brush that you're able to use. I tend to be of a more detailed painter, but I also admire other artists who use big brushes. There's one lady that I watch all the time who wrote painting big, fast, loose, and bold, or something like that. Don't hold me to that title. Patty Malika. Oh, she's so good. She uses big brushes and achieves such nice, vibrant, realistic paintings with very minimal strokes. So I would suggest that you check out some of her things too. And you'll find, if you keep watching my channel, that I love recommending different people's books. I've taken a lot of workshops, but my best resource, it seems like, is going to the library and looking up books on painting. And I'm happy to share them with you. And if you have favorite books that you like, feel free to throw them into the comments and share it with people. I have found that some of the books that I keep recommending to my classes, they are now expensive on some of the online stores. So So anyway, if it's something you want to keep secret, do that. But because it might drive the price up. But yet it's so nice to be able to share all of our information, because nothing is really new. We all learn from each other, and I have learned so much from other people also on YouTube so far. So here I'm about to finish where the sky is going right here. The blue sky definitely has a value to it. It's a lighter value, but you might want to fill that in so that you can see those beautiful cloud shapes that you're going to softly put in your painting. So I'm thinking that time is getting away today, so we might do a part 2 tomorrow on finishing up this painting. So let me see, I'll give a few more final touches to the grasses and a few more details, but you really don't have to put many details at all on the underpainting. So this is called an underpainting. And see, all of a sudden, you know, you can see your eyes pointing towards this focal point right here. I'll give myself a few little places where the clouds have shadowed underneath them. That gives them dimension. Some of the clouds, when you look at the sky, you'll see the light is hitting in certain areas. I think that this was the middle of the day, or not later than 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And so when you're doing a landscape, always ask yourself, where's the light source? Is it coming from the left or the right? Is it straight down? You know, if it's noon, it might be coming straight down. This was kind of a hazy day too, so some of the clouds were, you know, covering the sun, so there's not strong sunlight in here. But if you wanted to make it stronger, you could make it maybe come through here and it would light your focal point. I did not put a little house in there like I put in my drawing. This one right here. And so I might go ahead and just put a shape for that so I don't forget to at some point. I would love to put something there. And another thing I was working on, it had a little red barn. And so I'll just keep that in mind back here. And all right. So another thing I keep checking is it's darker in the front. So it has dimensions of going, you know, dark, medium, dark, goes into light. Then it's a little bit darker right here, and it gets lighter and lighter as it goes back. Usually landscape paintings are more defined in the front and warmer, and they get hazier and cooler as they go back. Let's see. Okay, here we go, right here. And anyway, I'm putting in a few more little darks, but this is pretty much unnecessary at this point. A good way not to do this, what I call piddling around on the painting, is just to set a little timer and say, I'm going to give myself no more than 15 minutes just to do my underpainting. And so as I start painting, I can do a little bit more to it, but I'm going to leave it here for today. So thanks so much for visiting my channel. Like and subscribe, and I'll have part 2 soon. Thank you.